Right, so it's back with the John Deere X750. We've got more grass to cut, mostly the same areas as last time. However, there are a few new areas which I'm going to show you straight away. This is a piece which I've just done, and what you can see, we've got the nice long grass full of wildlife, and we've also got the shorter areas, just basically so I can get around, so I'm not forever tripping over brambles and getting stung by the stinging nettles. As you can see, everything is just being completely covered over, and this is something I need to watch out for, because here, for example, we've got a log and a brick, and I actually ran over the brick because it was completely covered over by the long grass. So as you can see, there is a good contrast between the short grass and the longer grass, which is actually really good for the wildlife. If we were just to keep all of it long grass, then there wouldn't really be any open areas, which isn't necessarily good, and also if we cut it all, then it would all just be totally short, and well, there'd be nowhere for any of the wildlife to go, so that would not be a very good thing to do either. So this is the approach I'm taking. Basically cutting paths here and there, keeping the majority of it very long, and the long pieces will be cut once a year, most likely with a flail. Actually, I'm planning on sorting out a flail for the winter time, so I can really mulch that grass down and, you know, repeat the cycle next year. But so far, things are actually going really well, and I'm seeing a lot of wildlife. This is actually the main path to the second section, as they call it, which is where the trees are, and yeah, it's just basically the width of the mower, so it's a 48-inch cut. That is the width of the path, and it's going to open out in a minute to where we were before in the previous video, but it's amazing how quickly it's grown. But this is all expected as it's the time of year, and yeah, obviously when you first cut it, when you do the initial cut, it grows back very quickly, but it will start to slow down and it will leave more grass rather than weeds as well, so it's definitely a good thing cutting it fairly often. Right, well here we are. This is where we cut before, and it's not going back too badly actually, so this should be fairly easy. Although I have noticed that the John Deere is actually absolutely fantastic at cutting lawns, but as soon as I put it into this sort of length grass, it does like to leave a few bits here and there. It doesn't really depend on what speed you're doing. Even if you went deadly slow, it would still miss quite a bit, so you have to go over it at least twice for it to cut some longer grass, which is I suppose expected, as it is marketed as a lawn mower, not a field mower. I'll just go over there now and show you exactly what I mean. You can see this bit here is shorter, so it's cut that really well, but then you start to get like a line of grass which hasn't really been cut, and the blades are obviously brand new because the machine is brand new. So the only thing I can assume is either the roller at the front is flattening it and it's not springing back enough for it to cut it, or it's just simply too much for it to cope with. I'm not entirely sure. While I take you on a tour of the trees, I'm just going to try and run through as many of them as I can do. Obviously I'm not going to tell you a detailed story about every single tree you see, because that would be weird. But basically the white willow, which is what they are, they're doing very well. Actually, I don't think any of them have actually died. They're mostly thriving. The odd one has partially died, but then it's shooting from the bottom, so that's absolutely fine. That doesn't really matter at all. This is actually because it's been incredibly dry. And the first rain was only a few days ago, first rain in 2.5 weeks, and it's actually very free draining soil. This is basically sand, so it dries out really quickly. which isn't ideal at all, because the first year for trees is absolutely imperative. So you can't really help it. I mean, you could go around with a hose pipe or something, but then of course it means getting water to here in the first place, because there isn't anything. So I suppose the only thing you could do is, you know, stick an IVC on a trailer or in a pickup and do it that way, but that would be a very slow job, watering every tree with a hose pipe, especially when, well, it should rain really. I mean, it will rain again, but well, they're doing alright at the moment. There was a bit of rain the other day, so that's totally revived the willows. The silver birch, they did look totally dead, actually. They looked very bad indeed. They've lost their leaves. They did grow their leaves at the beginning of spring, but if you actually scratch their, well, you can't really call it bark at this stage, but if you scratch the side of the stem with your thumb or fingernail, you can still see it's green within. So it's a good sign, very good sign. They could definitely come back again. Hopefully they will do. Really, all you can do is leave them. Obviously, after a year, if they're still dead and they actually go brittle, then obviously they have died. But here you go. There's a perfect example just there. It potentially is still alive. It could come back. It could thrive. It could be a full tree very soon. You never know. That one's doing all right. That is a silver birch. The oak, again, the same story. Some of them are absolutely fine. Some of them have lost their leaves, but they're still green on the inside, so that is good. Really, none of them you can definitely say they've died, because they all show some form of life. But yeah, they definitely, on the outside at least, don't look good. The willows, like I say, are doing brilliantly, really, really good. The Norway spruce, Christmas trees, very good actually. They were the ones that initially looked bad, but now they've just sprung into action, and yeah, they're looking really good. So that is a very positive thing. What I'll do is just show you the rest of the outside of the area here, and then I'll jump cut and show you it nearer to the end, and basically to show you the finished article. And I'm done. I think it took about 2 hours to do, but looking much better. I'm leaving the long grass around the trees just so I can protect them a bit more, and also to retain the moisture around them as well. But yep, that has controlled the weeds, which is good. We have here another line of Christmas trees. These should all do really well. They're actually looking very healthy, so we'll leave them to it, and they should do a really good job. That's all finished, so everything you see which is long now is going to be left until the winter time. That is pretty much as far as I want to take it with the management point of view. It looks, in my opinion, very presentable. Good for wildlife, good for the trees. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed it or found it interesting. I'm going to do another video on the John Deere very soon, not necessarily an actual cutting video, maybe a bit of work on it. like checking it over, servicing possibly. And yeah, until the next one, see you again very soon. Bye for now.